What is going on, guys? It's your boy BG, and welcome to the Unknown Minds podcast, where the unknown mind is so known. And this is season 2, episode 56. Wow, I almost was about to say 57. But you know how many takes this took me to just record this one beginning? Because I wasn't really sure how I wanted to start. I wanted to do something a little bit more different, of course. So before I really get into it, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. You can find this podcast on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you get your podcasts. Cool. So before I really get into anything, if you guys haven't really tapped into season 1 of this podcast, which I cranked out straight up 55 episodes, top notch, straight through every Monday and Friday. And it took definitely a tough beat on me. I was juggling like multiple things at a time. So that kind of really put a little bit more stress, but I kept fighting through it. And as always, you'll learn through trial and error of just doing, trying something new and just failing at something new. Well, I didn't really fail, but making mistakes at doing something new. So one of my biggest mistakes was 55 episodes is damn near 5 goddamn seasons. And I didn't realize until after I finished the podcast. Because at the time, I wasn't really in a clear state of mind. I wasn't really clear state of thought. And my mind is more conscious now. Like, not saying as if I wasn't conscious before, but my mind is more of in a clear space where I'm clear-headed. So I'm not really packing up everything all into one podcast, which I feel as though a lot of those episodes, I could have just did straight 10 and kept it moving. 10 and kept it moving. 10 and kept it moving. That could have been stretched. 55 episodes could have been stretched by the minimum of almost 2 years. Maybe 2 years doing podcasting. So, if you guys don't know who I am, my name is Braxton Green. You can call me BG. You can call me Brax, whatever the case may be. I am from the DMV area. I was born and raised in DC, but I'm currently living in Maryland with my cousin. And, of course, I'm working a 9-to-5 job. So, I am juggling around doing the things that I usually do as far as meditating, going outside with nature, and doing other things of that nature, doing editing, recording these podcast episodes, focus on my reading, focus on my meditation. So just making sure I'm getting into the routine of things while operating off of a daily work life, right? So, yeah, I'm from D.C. I'm from southeast of D.C., man. I was born and raised in southeast of D.C. Recently, 2 or 3 years ago, I moved over here with my cousin because at the time I used to be in my parents' basement, and this was a little bit after my grandmother died. She passed away, and then I was sleeping in the basement, and I was in college struggling. Like, I was at UDC. I was struggling for my life, bro. I'm trying to tell you, man, struggling for bus fare to catch a train back and forth to school. Always came late to class. I couldn't even keep up with my classes. It was just a lot going on at that time. So after I finished probably maybe my first semester, maybe in college, I didn't really do a full year. I kind of sucked at my first year. And I know the very first season of my podcast, I kind of go into myself, but not really as much as I'm going into now. So I really want you guys to really get a full feel for me. I went probably through my first semester, flunked my first semester. I only took maybe about 2 classes. I think I had, I didn't really flunk. I had a 2.5 or something like that. 2.5. No, I had C's. Yeah, I had straight C's. And that really wasn't my best work because I know I could have did a lot better. And the motivation and the things that I knew back then, I didn't really know as much as I know now. So if I know what I know now back then, my mind would have been more in a better state. I would have been way far off now if I would have just known back then what I know now. So let's just fast forward. Let's go say 2018, 2019. Yeah, that's when my cousin hit me up for an opportunity to work at a job, which is at a warehouse, which I'm not going to disclose what warehouse I work at. So I currently work at a warehouse at this current moment, once again, a 9-to-5 job, and operating on trying to become a successful entrepreneur. And I went through a lot even with going through a job because I always had this emotion that I always was meant to do something greater at that time. Because I always went to work, felt like shit. I'm going to be honest. I felt like complete shit. I just felt like, damn, where am I going to go from here? Like, this is not my all in all right here. Probably been that way for maybe about a good 2 or 3 years. About a good 2 or 3 years. And then I took a gamble and put some money into an investing group. The investing group taught me how to trade, which I was using MetaTrader for. I haven't used any of those methods in a long ass time because I've been focused on so many other things, trying to learn different skills and techniques. But then I went back to college again in 2020. This is before the COVID pandemic, before really the pandemic hit. So from 2019, from maybe 2020, of August of 2020 to all the way till March or May of 2019 of August, all the way up until March 2020, around the time of the pandemic. No, May 2020, around the time of the pandemic. I went back to college because I thought college was for me, of course. As I told you now, I'm not in college currently because I feel as though, a lot of things that college is a scam. College is a business. US is a business. And I'm going to be talking about a lot of these things in this season. A lot more about finance and things of that nature. Things that I've learned over the course of time. Of even me taking a break from, just cooking up in the studio with the podcast. And remind you, I'm not even in the studio. I got a $30 microphone from Amazon. I bought a multi-directional aux cord, and I'm also using an aux that comes with the iPhone 12. Yeah, I got an iPhone 12, and the iPhone 13 is already dropped in. Probably at the end of this year, it's going to be an iPhone 14. I took an aux, plug it in, boom, plug it to my phone, and boom. Now I'm recording off of voice record on my iPhone. So this is how I be cooking it up. So this season, you're going to have some audio. You can get a little bit of everything, more in-depth content, and a couple of features this season too. Some good features. I can't disclose them yet. Some who follow my Instagram at The Unknown Minds Pod, they seen some of the work on it. So it's a lot that I'm juggling right now, this current moment, building the season 2. And I want to make sure that this season is very authentic and guys can really get to know me. So I don't know where I left off with my story. So let's say, okay, boom, I get into a trade group. And this was a little bit after I got out of college because I took a gamble with $200. Yeah, I took a gamble with $200, and this is when I ended up getting a tax return. So I took my money, I put it where my mouth is. So I took my money and I invested in a trade group. And that probably was one of the most life-changing moments of my life because it exposed me to something that I was never exposed to. So when I got put into the investing group, the trade group, they were teaching me how to trade, and they was just doing these routines of morning routines and nightly routines, and they were just in the habit of meditation and reading. At the time, my mind was in a whole different space. I wasn't meditating nor reading nor dealing with any of these things. As I tend to do it for months on end, I end up developing those same habits, and I still do those same habits till this day. Till this day. You know how, I forgot what his name is. Yeah, I forgot what his name is. The dude that said till this day, and he's the boxer. I forgot what his name is. Motherfucker said I look like him and shit. But I've been doing them ever since, and ever since I started gaining knowledge from books and gaining knowledge from what I knew from just being in a trade group, it forever changed my life. And while I was in a trade group, I was able to speak and really articulate myself really well. And they was like, yo, you need to take this on a bigger platform. And a lot of times, I had a lot of quotes and thoughts in my head that always make a lot of sense, but always touch people to a deep extent. And remind you, years prior, before I even had a job, before I was even in college or anything of that nature, I always wanted to be a motivational speaker. And I was saying this when I used to live down in Northeast by Providence Hospital Center. That was around the time when my grandmother, her house burned down and everyone was in shit. Like, everyone's mind was in a different space. And at the time, I was just drawing nonstop, and also my artist too. So I can draw like crazy. So I haven't been on my drawing ability in a while because I felt as though that, me being a podcast and me just speaking my mind, I can really put myself in a position to help people at a larger scale. So let's run to the present moment around 2020, 2021. So during the time I was in a trade group, and I was shopping with one of my homies, Quincy. I haven't rapped to Brody in a minute, I know he's doing good, He's on a little, I guess a assistant coach on the basketball team, whatever the case may be. Congratulations to you again, bruh. But yeah, Quincy, he had put me on to a podcast, which is the Jay Shetty podcast, and one of the podcasts was featuring Big Sean. So I sat there and I listened to the Big Sean podcast, and I really liked it a lot. I think that will forever be one of my favorite episodes on the Jay Shetty podcast, on top of the Will Smith podcast with him and Will Smith, and the Russ podcast with him and Russ. But the Big Sean one will forever be my favorite, because that was just the podcast that I always could relate to. It related to me a lot, and me just hearing those words coming from him and how much knowledge he learned from books, that just made me want to, my bad, I'm a little tired. It is late as hell at night, so I did a lot of work today, did a lot of studying, so studying not for school, but for an actual skill, and I'm working to become a life and health insurance agent, so that's a whole nother story. I saved that for another day. But that will forever be one of my favorite podcast episodes. So when he told me, he's like, man, you should do it. And I just took into consideration, like, man, I have nothing else to lose. So I bought a $30 microphone off of Amazon, which I'm still using at this moment. I do have a better microphone that I'll be using for future podcast sessions once when I figure out how I'm using the setup by actually utilizing this mic. So I bought a $30 microphone. I brought me some cheap equipment from off of Amazon. And remind you, you just need equipment to get started whatever you want to do. You just need equipment. That is it. Equipment. Basic equipment. It don't need to be all that. It don't need to be fancy. Just something to get yourself off your feet. Remind you, I'm still doing a podcast and I'm living at my cousin's crib. And I'm sleeping on the airbed. Right? So there's no excuses. Really, there isn't. So, where I was at. I was letting my mind ramble about my history on how I got into podcasting. So yeah, back to what I was saying. So I was getting some equipment off of Amazon, and when you believe you could really do something, you're gonna find creative solutions to how to get it done. So at the time, I didn't have any idea I was gonna do podcasting. I didn't have any idea how I was gonna start. So I was like, man, well, look, I got the greatest device there is on the planet that can help me start anything, which is the iPhone. So at the time, I was like, how can I use my iPhone to make a podcast? I was like, all right, well, I need to buy microphones. All right, so what type of microphone I'm going to need to get? I was like, all right, well, I'm going to just get this microphone right here. Hopefully it works good. Didn't know how the shit was going to work, so I ended up buying it. Bought about 2 or 3 of them, just in case if I got into a podcast with multiple people and I can be a podcast on the go, which was a hell of an idea. So I bought those mics, and I bought a multi-directional aux cord. And then I looked at my iPhone like, damn, I probably need another aux piece because the ports do not fit on my phone. So I bought an aux piece for my phone. Long story short, I bought equipment, made it work, and I did what I had to do. And before this podcast was called the Unknown Minds Podcast, it was called the Common Sense Podcast. So before, my slogan was, what's going on, guys? It's your boy BG, and welcome to Common Sense, where common sense isn't so common. That's what it was like before. So I realized that someone else was taking my idea, and it was a lot harder to find my podcast too, because a lot of other people had my name. So I had to go back to the drawing board and just reconfiguring, okay, what's going to be the name of my podcast? So I literally stayed up on probably a Friday or Saturday night, getting off of work from maybe 8 p.m. all the way until maybe 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning, trying to come up with a new logo for my podcast. And a new slogan for my podcast, which is not that much different from the Common Sense slogan. So, and this is just months later. This is months later, though, after I already done started probably 40 or 50 episodes in. Almost damn near at the end of the podcast, I started switching up my logo. So Quincy introduced me to podcasting. That was when I was in a trade group at the time. And I did my thing, bro. I got started. And I said I wanted to talk about mental health, spiritual health, and things of that nature. And I found myself finding new information that I also was interested in that could help me expand my podcast more. So I started diving more into finances because at that time, I was still an entrepreneur that I was just trying to learn a skill that could help me become very wealthy. And at that time, I was in it for like self-development purposes, but I was also in it for money. Now, my reasoning has changed over the course of time because I was able to sit down with myself and finally realized that the money isn't all I want. What I want is to be able to impact people. And because I'm able to impact people, people are willing to pay for impact. And it's not that I'm choosing to, like, I'm doing impact and I'm expecting to get paid. No, I'm impacting people because I want to be able to help someone else's life. the best possible way I can by being a conductor or connector to them, by sharing them my own experience of what's going on in my life and how I handle certain situations. So my objective is impact. And as Maya Angelou said, she said this, she said, people may forget what you say, people may forget what you do, but people will never forget how you made them feel. So impact is a feeling, bro. Like me, I just want to impact people. I want to be able to help as much people as possible and get paid doing it. And just being of service. I feel as though my life's purpose is always being of service of others, but in the best possible way it can to help someone else. But also, before I become a service of other people, I also got to be a service of myself and realize what I want and what I need out of life, and how can what I want and what I need be a blessing to other people. Because we don't get blessed just for us, we get blessed to bless other people. That's the purpose of a blessing. The minute you get blessed, you have the ability to bless others. The minute you can give, you always receive. And when you receive, you have more to give. The givers always get more than the getters. The getters don't get enough because the getters don't give out more than they give. And when the fist is closed, they don't receive nor give, so they get nothing. They receive nothing and they give nothing. So I always stay by the motto, man. Just whatever you're doing, just give. Give out the purest intent, the purest intent, the purest intent to always give. Because 99.9% of the people on this earth, now, I think of it now like people don't give from the heart. People give because they want something from you. And it could be from family members, it could be from friends, it could be from anyone. So when someone gives you, just never expect it coming from the heart at times. I understand, like, always have this intent of, people have good hearts. It's people that have good hearts, of course. 100% of course. But people ain't going to do the same thing that you're doing. So just because I give to people, it doesn't mean that people are all like me. They're going to give like how I'm going to give. You know what I'm saying? Or they're going to do what I do, or they're going to follow the same principles that I follow. People don't roll like that, man. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people on this earth give because they want something or they want to get something from you. So never put the expectation of someone is giving just out of pure heart intent, because their actions is going to show for it, obviously. When you run into a scenario or a situation, and if they ask you, remember, if they always bring up the favor that they did for you, they always in the intent of getting something from you. So when they gave to you, it wasn't never because they wanted to do it for you. It's because they wanted to get something from you. Let's just keep it real. You know what I'm saying? Let's keep it real. But let me go ahead and continue as my story continues. So yeah, I let it roll, man. I just started a podcast and I just let it run. And over the course of time, my intent changed, or what I wanted to implement on this podcast. And I want to make sure that to season 2, it's going to be a lot better than season 1, way better than season 1. It's going to bring the dynamics of me out of here. You know what I'm saying? It's going to bring up so much growth of what I was from season 1 to season 2. And that's the whole purpose of just keeping a record, of having something that's documented and displayed to public of what you've been doing the whole entire time. So when you look back on it, you can see how much you've grown. And I think that's the best part of growth, is realizing how much you've grown, where you came from originally. So yeah, my intent, my whole entire intent just changed over time, bro. Like at time I was like, man, just money. Man, I'm just trying to give me some bread. Man, I'm just trying to impact people. But it was more money than it is impact. But you can't have impact without having money, or you can't have money without having impact. Well, actually, no, I take that back. That kind of like came off the head. You can impact people and not get paid for it. But the best thing you're getting paid for is the impact that you have on a person, because impact moves. When you impact people, that same energy flows through other people. So you start getting the word that, yo, this person changed my life. So that's your wealth right there. Wealth doesn't mean the physical things, the money. Wealth means mindset. Wealth means impact. To me, wealth means impact. The wealthier that I get, how many people can I impact because of the wealth that I have? And of course, the more money you have, the more of a target you'll become. It gets like that too, But all in all, man, I think when you want to start a podcast, you'll figure out a way to get it done. And intelligence is not how you work with how you work with the resources that you want, but how you work with the resources that you have to get what you want, right? So what I mean by that is intelligence doesn't always mean when you get the good resources, you operate with the good resources. Intelligence just means when you operate with the resources that you have to get the resources that you want. And intelligent people also solve problems. Sometimes the problem is starting your own business. Sometimes that is the problem. But when you figure out a way to start that problem, we get happiness and fulfillment of us solving problems. Yeah, I just want to let you guys know, man, like you can do anything. Like I'm doing this from a 9-to-5 job, just balancing out everything and just making sure your mind is in a clear space. Making sure it's in an exact clear space. I don't know if I got anything else I really want to talk about. But if I miss anything, just let me know. I can go ahead and scoop in some more information about how much I really want to talk about in this podcast. Well, in this specific episode specifically. Yeah, so that's kind of like my whole story, man. I grew up in poverty. Bottom line, I ain't grew up in the best of worlds, but the fact that I'm working towards something is helping me to gain both sides of the menu, man. The poor and the rich part of life. And life is really what you make it, man. You can really build a lifestyle that you want. You just gotta know how to build the first brick. Start with the first brick. Will Smith said it the best. Lay one brick a day and you'll build an empire. Well, that's just paraphrasing. I think that's my leg. Actually, I ain't even gonna give him keys for that, because he said build one brick a day, you build a house. I'm saying building a castle. So yeah, you take one brick a day, man, and you can build that castle. You can build an empire that you want. You just gotta make sure to yourself and how you gonna start. Like I said, I ain't have everything. So when I got exposure, man, I just knew there was so much more out there for me to do. So now I'm studying to be a life insurance agent, a health insurance agent. Then I'm investing in crypto and stocks, which I'm going to be more likely talking about more in this podcast. It's not just a self-development, self-improvement podcast, because finances play also a part in self-development, self-improvement. So I'm going to be talking a lot on here about finances on here too. Here and then, as I tend to learn more information about finances and start to apply it and start to implement the things that I'm doing, I'm always going to relay you guys the information, because my life is someone else's blueprint. So I'm going to make sure that, the things that I do is just be documented as I go. And I want to make sure that everything that I state, I definitely follow what I do. And the results going to show up for itself. Oh, another reason why I kind of went really hard on the podcast is, at the time I ain't really tell nobody. I ain't really go to social media. But when my grandfather died, me and him, we had a last conversation. And he heard how I spoke. He heard how I speak to people. And me and him, we sat down. We had like a nice long conversation. And I was telling him about all the stuff that I knew and the information that I know. And he was telling me something. I'm just paraphrasing. I don't really remember word by word, but it hit me emotionally. And he was like, man, I'm very proud of you, because he said back in my day, I never heard a black brother like yourself speak as intelligently as you are now. And back then, I wasn't half as smart as you. I didn't know as much as you know. I didn't speak as intelligent as you do. And I never met someone that actually can articulate themselves as much as you do. So, and that was our last conversation we had. And about a week after that, he passed away, which tore me apart. And for him to believe in me that I can get something done, and for him to even say I have a voice, it just made me go harder. That's why I was able to crunch out 55 episodes. And to this day, I'm still going to be crunching out these episodes, because of the fact that I started something, and the fact that I start something, I got to finish it. And I've written that to myself in the journal. I always keep a journal on me. I always keep my thoughts in the journal. And everything that I do, I do it out of pure intent to be more as impactful as possible, to build the generational wealth and to build the generational health of the people that is coming behind me. I think that's more important than anything. It's not what I leave for them, it's what I leave in them. And that's just the mindset, the spirit, the things that can help them sustain the wealth for a long period of time, sustain the things that I built for them. So it's all about just studying the mind, man, just working on being the best version of you, just working on the self-development part of you, just working on just operating off your higher self, operating off of God's thinking, operating off of God's mind and thinking. Just intertwining your soul with the best parts of you, and also the worst parts. Acknowledging that you have the worst parts of you and Xing out the worst parts, right? They still there, but you're adding more improvements to the design that's already been created. You're just adding more improvements to you by reading books. The foundation of me is still here. I'm still that dude that likes anime, plays video games, and is into Marvel and DC and all that stuff. But as I tend to learn and dive into more information, the same me is here, but I'm being upgraded by more additional information and a growth in a level state of consciousness. So as your consciousness grows, you got to grow with your consciousness. That's physically too. Your actions have to grow with your consciousness. Your support system has to grow with your consciousness. And your environment has to grow with your consciousness. And if you are incapable of changing your environment, guard your mental environment. What do you digest on a regular basis? So ever since then, I just been going hard with podcasting. I just been listening to a rack of podcasts that keep my mind in the right space. I can give you a couple of podcasts that I really listen to a lot. And one of the dudes is 19 Keys. He motivates me a lot. Like, not just motivates, but like, he inspired me for me to become a greater me. Because listening to his podcast helped me to understand that I can be a greater me. Like, I can morph this universe into my hands. I could literally become the king of my own dream, bro. And just build everything that I want. And I know that everything I want, I gotta have intention while I want it, man. So I can go on for another about extra 30 minutes, man. On me, well, I just want to keep it short and brief. If there's anything that I missed, man, let me know. I'll go ahead and dive in a little bit deeper about myself. And I ain't trying to sound fucking narcissistic, but just dive a little bit more on me and let you guys get to know me a little bit more. I think this is where authenticity plays its factor of just being open to being open, and open to being open to people, open to be transparent. That shit is it's a tongue twister. So I'm gonna let you guys go, man. I appreciate you guys for listening, for having your ear, man. Faith plus great work ethic creates vulnerable opportunity. Also, faith plus great work ethic creates vulnerable opportunity. Oh, wait. Lastly, what's going to be coming up in this season 2, it's going to be a lot going on. It's going to be more visuals. I'm still working on the visual aspect of things, but there's going to be a lot of great episodes that can be built around a lot of great content. So just beware. There's going to be tons of good episodes, tons of good features, tons of everything. Just tons of everything, bro. So I love y'all, man. I appreciate y'all, man. I appreciate the support. I appreciate the listeners for just having your ear, for having your time, for hearing my mumbling and shambles and things of that nature. And as this podcast tend to grow, man, I'm going to tend to grow my intellect and be able to feed you guys the same thing I feed myself on a regular basis, man. And just tell you how I handle them, you know what I'm saying? And hopefully how the way I handle them can help you. Hopefully my information of my own personal experiences, or the information that I digest in these books, because every book you read, you're digesting someone else's life. So I'm living someone else's lifestyle of each book that I read, bro. Like, real talk. I done lived a million lives reading all these damn books. But that's the best part about it, because you learn experience before experience. That's the best part about it, bro. So anyways, man, I thank you. I appreciate you. I love you all. And have a blessed night or day, whatever part of the day you're looking at this, night, day, or evening. Just have a blessed day, and Take care. See you.